Hi, guys. Well, that was a nice warm welcome. So yeah, I'm Chris. I'm really happy to be here with Creative Mornings. So today I'm going to talk to you a bit about the modern mentor. So as he mentioned, he's kind of spoiled my talk a little bit, but my name is Chris, and some of you may know me from Instagram or TikTok, where I share lots of things about Geneva. But actually, I have a really robust career in media production. I've been working almost 20 years, or over 20 years, at various companies, and mentorship really has been very instrumental to how my career has panned out. And I thought I would share some of the learnings that I had that helped me kind of evolve my career that I think maybe could help others propel themselves forward or get inspiration. But I didn't actually start wanting to be in television. I actually wanted to be a scientist. I would spend a lot of time in front of the TV watching documentaries about archaeology, oceanography, space, and I loved it so much. But I learned really early on that I actually didn't have the interest to be in the lab. I really just enjoyed watching the shows and learning about it. And I actually had two early mentors in my life that actually showed me a career in media was possible. So my cousin Vicky was actually a producer at Discovery Channel in the very earliest days when it was almost like a startup. And my uncle Mike was a creative director at an advertising agency in Baltimore. And I was just a rural kid living in Maryland. I did not know that this kind of fancy career is even possible. But I think just being young and able to see that you don't have to be in Hollywood to work in television was really motivating as a young person. And so just being part of the family, I would hear about their adventures and their career, and I was like, wow, actually I could do this too. And I just think that is at its essence is for me the most important thing about mentorship is that just knowing that a dream is possible and you see people living it gives you a lot of motivation to keep going. And I'm not gonna lie, I think having people who lived that world really gave me a leg up in those very earliest days. I think just for them knowing that I was interested to actually proceed with a career in television and creative, it just changed the shape of our conversations. I found that over Easter dinner or whatever, we would just be chatting. I would hear about what they were doing, and as those conversations happened, it got more and more invested for me. And I think as they saw I was more interested, they rewarded that with experiences. So when I was in high school, as I was getting closer to college, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to pursue creative television production or something like that. My cousin arranged for me to sit in with a Shark Week producer at a post-production facility. And so I was literally shadowing for the day this great creative and I didn't have any idea how these things were made. You just see things on TV. And I was actually there with him in the edit suite, watching him work with the editors, see how a script comes to life, do a voiceover record session with a talent. And really that was such a defining experience for me to be yeah, actually I could totally see myself doing this career. And just having that shadowing experience was fantastic. And my uncle then, that same year, right before college, let me tag along on a commercial shoot in New York City. And I didn't have any job to do. I just had to kind of stay out of the way. But I learned so much through that opportunity to witness that up close. And so that's, for me, is where the dream really shifted from a dream to something I could really see myself doing. But having those access really could only take me so far. Access can only take you so far. So my cousin told me, basically, they could help me get a leg in, these early stages, this experience, but really whether I sunk or float was completely up to me. Over dinners at Christmas and all these things, we would just have these really honest conversations. She's always been a bit of a big sister to me in life and in my career as well. And so she said, you got to show up. You got to be the first one there, the last to leave, especially in these early years. It's all about proving yourself. In media, where it's so competitive, Everybody wants to do it. You don't want to be the one. You don't want to be the weak link. You've got to stand out, and you've got to have a good attitude. You've got to be willing to do the things that you get, like the admin work. You've got to be the assistant, and you have to do it well, because those are the people who are going to stand out in these early days, and those are the people who either will make it or they won't. And oh no. Let's see here. It's blank. So in hindsight, that really was that real talk that I needed. I think everybody needs someone who's in your corner, supporting you, but also telling you how it is. Like, no sugarcoating. Like, this is the situation. And she said, because there is no entitlement in this industry, you have to intern. And so I did. I spent every summer during college doing different internships. Some were great, some were not. Some were a waste of time. But it helped me build my resume, figure out what I did and did not want to do. And it was just a great start. And by the time I graduated college, a semester early, so I could get a jump start in the world, I was able to get my first job at TLC at Discovery as a production assistant. And that was great. I absolutely loved it. I was like, wow, here I am. I've done it. I'm in where I need to be. But almost immediately, I could just sense the industry was shifting. There was constant reorgs. From my first year there, layoffs, and it just seemed so unfair. Like, after everything, we're the generation that has to face this constant unsteadiness in the media industry. And it really shadowed a little bit of like, oh wow, like this isn't actually a stable career to have. And obviously I'm 20 years in, I've stuck it out, but it's been a journey to continue on. And I find it really interesting that even now, 20 years later, it's still this constant evolution of instability. I've worked at companies where we've been bought by other companies, and as you'll see, it's been an interesting journey. And so over a few years, I continued to move up. Really, in media, I was told from my boss at TLC, like, if you want to move up, you've got to move. So every 2 years, kind of tried to make that lateral move to get experience and to get just to keep on moving. And when I was at Travel Channel, that's when I started my travel blog, a written blog. They were encouraging all the staff to participate creatively in these travel blog efforts, and I was really interested. I didn't even travel blogging was really new at the time. It was, I don't know, about 15 years ago or something. And so I focused on mid-Atlantic travel in DC, and I would just do it on the side. I really loved it, but I started doing press trips, and it was just a great, like, single woman side hustle, I guess. It didn't pay anything, but it was very fulfilling. And so when I got laid off from Travel Channel, I really actually picked up the pace on that a bit, and I was back to Discovery for another job. But here's where it gets good. So when I was at Discovery, it was great, but it was good because it was a paycheck, but it wasn't like a career fulfilling, soul searching type of job. And then I got the job at Nat Geo. I was a writer producer, and I was like, I've made it. Here I am. Like, this is everything. I was working on shows about science. I was working about shows about space. I got nominated for an Emmy. I was meeting explorers. Like, it was a dream job. But it doesn't always last forever. And I think that's the thing, is that even though you're where you want to be, it may not always fit for the long term. And I could just see that the industry just wasn't secure. You know, I've gone through so many reorgs, and I just didn't like having my power in another company. And so I decided to go freelance. That's when I made the jump. And it's right around when I was starting to have kids. I have two girls now. They're 5 and 8. But so about 8 years ago, I went freelance. However, it was much harder than I expected. You know, I had a great contact base at that point. I knew a lot of people. I had proven myself through good attitude and showing up early and staying late. And it just was a lot harder than I expected to find my way. And so I had some bumpy bits there in the beginning. I don't know, maybe it's because I was pregnant, but I took some clients I didn't want to take just because I needed the paycheck. I had to let my travel blog stop because I didn't have the time for anything that didn't pay. I was doing social media management for small businesses, which in theory was good, but then they had too much ownership over their work. I had no voice in it. And so I lost my creativity along the way. But then also, that's around the time where I started to kind of fall into these false mentors. These people who would go on Instagram and say, oh, you could live the digital nomad lifestyle. You could be a social media manager and be freelance and sell you like a course, an e-course or a PDF, and just sign up for my email list and you'll get this free PDF. And really, I think that was something I had to find the hard way. It's like, don't waste your time on these false mentors. Find the people that will really support you and boost you and help you find your way without having to like get on their email list, basically. And not be afraid to take chances. I think so many of us, I've always been pretty bold with taking chances with my career and with life. But I think from talking to people, people are not always like that, or they feel nervous, like maybe this job I'm not quite qualified for. I always say, just aim higher. Just kind of keep always moving forward. I've served me well in my career, and I think it serves well for others as well. But I think that this is a really key point, is mentorship is not about selling people on your journey. It's about helping them, support them on theirs. And I've been really fortunate just to have people throughout my career that have really helped with that from the very earliest stages. Oh yeah, but then here's where everything changed. I moved to Geneva. So I moved to Geneva, and I moved during COVID. And this is where I think some of you who follow me on Instagram maybe started to, this story will sound a bit more familiar now. So I moved here sight unseen. It was during COVID. I was unable to visit the city. I actually didn't have a great sense of the city before. Maybe not, sense is not the right word. I did not think the city was going to be very nice before I moved in. I have this funny story where my husband was here on a business trip like a few years before we moved here. And he said, hey, you want to come with me? Like, we'll just pay for the airfare. You can stay in the hotel. And I was like, I looked online. I looked on like the Geneva tourism website. I was like, I don't think I have anything I'll do here. Like, I literally don't know. And I was a travel blogger. I was really good at finding things to do. And I was like, I don't know. Like, even day trips, I had a hard time figuring out where to go for day trips around here. There are so many day trips. It's insane. And I was like, no, it's okay. I'm just going to stay home. I like literally stayed home from almost a free trip. And I think that's such a funny like origin story for like a Geneva travel content creator, because I moved here and almost instantly I stepped out of our temporary housing hotel right along the waterfront. I was like, wow, this place is amazing. I was completely sold. And from that point on, I was like out with little stroller, because I had a 1.5-year-old at the time. We were just going everywhere, exploring. And that's when I started thinking like, okay, like I think I can help the city a bit here. But I started really small because I did not want to be this immigrant basically coming into the city and taking over and like, here's where I think you should go. That was never what it was about. It was more about celebrating the city and helping people find their way. And so I really was very passionate and thought that I had something that I really could offer the city. And so I started, this was right around the time when Instagram Reels and TikTok were really starting to become more popular, like at the early stages of Instagram Reels. And so I started doing video content about the things I had discovered in Geneva, basically just because I didn't see anything else like that out there. At the time, there were creators who were doing like photo posts and things like that, but there was not a lot of video. And as a video producer, I was able to turn that lens of my career into my social. And so then I brought back that travel blog, basically, only now it became an Instagram page, and just took that same level of like research for itineraries and stuff that I would do before, but apply it to the city. And I tested it on TikTok first, and I found that people were so warm and accepting and happy that I was posting it because I felt really nervous. I just didn't want to be that girl, that perky American, And I had a lot of locals on TikTok give me that encouragement. Like, yeah, like, thank you. Like, we really appreciate, like, this treatment of our city. And so that actually gave me the motivation to keep going. Because if I would have gotten negative feedback in the beginning from the people from here, I would have stopped, because it just wasn't that important to me. But because I felt like there was a need for it, I felt like I could add something. And really that is like my main motivation with all my content, is to help and to give back. And I'm not looking to be an influencer. It just has kind of happened because so I adapted, because I learned that through my research from real mentors, like people on TikTok giving advice about creativity, that when you put yourself in content, it tends to do better if people connect with you. And so that's the only reason why me as a 40-plus-year-old, am putting myself in videos, because I would never have chosen to do this at this age, for sure. But now I found that it was interesting, because my social media world and my real world started to converge, because I was doing all of my content creation for Instagram and TikTok about Geneva in my free time. It's always been a side hustle, and it still is a side hustle. My main career is still television and media production. So I was actually freelancing with National Geographic at the time in Geneva, building up my Instagram and TikTok profile. And then I realized that there were so many digital creator jobs, digital producer jobs opening up at all the international organizations. Everyone wants the skill set now. I just feel like everyone needs to have that digital content producer on staff in all these organizations that are proper jobs, right? And so I realized that my Instagram and TikTok could actually be a proof of concept for community building for my real career. So I gave me motivation to keep investing that time in my side hustle. And it actually really has paid off, because so I just started, because we want to stay in Geneva. We want to be able to stay here. My husband works at the Global Fund, so contracts, it seems like this instability seems to follow me. Maybe I'm the problem. I don't know. But I started applying for jobs at WIPO and Gavi and UNICEF, and I actually got pretty far in the process for some of them, but never got the job. And then I got a call from Gavi. Mm-hmm. We have a position opening up, a consultant position. It's just for 3 months, maybe longer. You had a really good, strong interview. Would you like to come in for a quick conversation about it? And so I did. I went in. It was a 20-minute conversation with my now boss and the director of our department. And what they proposed to me was not exactly the job I have now. I basically sold my idea of the job to them, and they agreed. And now, a year and a half later, I'm still there. And so the door was closed, but somehow I was able to kick it open. And I think that's just from being just a little bit persistent and having the right attitude. Oh, and maybe it doesn't hurt that my boss also follows me on TikTok. I don't know. He's like, I thought I knew you from somewhere. But yeah, so I think as a mentor today, so mentorship is super important to me. I mean, I have that side hustle just built in me, I think, at this point. I think maybe all of us do. I don't know. I think it's just the generation we're in. So while I work at Gavi and do my social media, I also I do freelance videos for Black Tap, for example. Once a month I go in and film 9 videos for them. And I like to pay it forward. I am part of a couple marketing groups in Geneva, and I always try and get an assistant to come with me, a paid assistant, to come with me, and I try and mix it up so I can get someone who's interested in learning, like, what's it like to shoot content and stuff, just to help me. I don't necessarily need the help all the time, but I think it's a good way to pay it forward, because those early experiences were so crucial to me, to getting that just knowing whether it was the right fit for me or not. And I just think that mentoring in 2025 doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be meeting for coffee or like having a big sit-down meeting. It's just replying to a DM or reposting one of their articles or a video. it's about just like, yeah, you can do it, guys. Like, this is like, you've got this. Like that moment of hype or just confidence, that quiet confidence, really I think is a huge inspiration and could be a huge motivator for young creatives. And so for me, I mean, really, my whole career does go back to those early mentors, my cousin and my uncle. It's amazing. And now neither one of them are in the industry anymore. I'm the one that seems to have lasted the longest. But, you know, just knowing that I could be here and belong was so important, and that, you know, it really resonated for me. And yeah, so thank you for having me.
I think we have time for questions and answers. If there's any questions for Christina. Think of the questions.
I'll start it off. So yeah, Chris, I think I was telling you earlier when I first reached out to you to be a speaker, you know, I thought, I moved to Geneva about 7 months ago, started following you to explore the city, and then realized that you also run WeWalk, which has over 1,500, I think, members, like an incredible community resource. So I thought, oh, that's what she does. Like, she runs her accounts and she has this community. And then I find out that you have like a full-time day job, and you have 2 kids. And I think we all feel often overwhelmed by the different things we have to juggle. And probably isn't an easy question to answer, but how do you find the time, and like what are the sacrifices you make in doing all of that?
I mean, it's hard. And I think I wish I could have a sign on my profiles like, this is not my full-time job, because I think for me it's more about the authenticity. Like, I really have always wanted people to come to my content and not feel like it's just a bunch of sponsored posts. For me to like even put the time into anything that shows up on my Instagram, it means something that is important to me or something I believe in. Even like, I have very, very few paid collaborations, but they're all stuff that I actually believe in or I feel connected to in some way. Most of the things are stuff I just have, like, I make the time to do, but it is really hard. I don't know if I'd recommend it. I feel like maybe I don't know. I'm an only child, so I don't know, overachiever, I don't know. But it is challenging, and I do have to be really strategic. But I will say the negative flip side is I always feel like I'm behind on something. Like, at this exact moment, I've got like a few videos I need to produce that I've filmed. I have the next walk is in a few weeks. I haven't even thought about it. And so I know that there's a community of people waiting to hear like what's going to happen. So I feel like I'm always letting somebody down. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd recommend it. But I wouldn't have it any other way though. So
for your proxy case for your account, I would love to hear you share a bit more about like how you iterated on the content and what signals you were taking in of what was working well and what not. Maybe beyond just like
for the video content?
Yeah, for your travel. Yeah.
Okay, well, so I will say it was on the card, but I stopped looking at the cards. So really, he knew.
I told you.
Yeah. So and actually, this is my first speaking presentation, so I'm glad that. Thank you for bearing with me. First deck I've ever done. So the question is how I've iterated my content.
Yeah.
And so it's funny. So when I first started, TikTok was like the dances, like the short 3 seconds. And so it's changed over like in the past 4 years since I've been doing it. It changed from that 3 to 7 second format where you really have to be, it's all about humor and whatever, which I'm not the funniest person, to be honest. I'm more into like detail, to like the longer form, like the 45 seconds to a minute. Oh, like if you go over a minute, you can get monetized. Oh, 3 minutes, they'll push your content. Oh, try horizontal. I mean, literally, it is maddening if you stay, like if you follow the trends.
Yeah.
But for Geneva, I think the trend that I tried to stay to, what resonated with me is that there were people in London, New York, Paris, doing all this cool content about like fun things to do, cool coffee shops, and then they started doing the voiceover. That's when I like felt like I really came into my own as like a creator for for my packed suitcase account because I saw what they were doing, and I thought Geneva deserved that too. Like, we deserve to have some cool, and so I really loved what they were doing in like the bigger cities. So I actually modeled a lot of my content after that, maybe about 3 years ago. Once we started to get a little bit longer format, that's when I put myself in the content. So I started doing voiceovers, maybe some day in the lifes in there, which isn't exactly me, but it was fun. I did like some days in the life as a freelance content creator, which was fun because it was more about like the career and the creative than whatever. So I kind of took inspiration from other cities and saw what we weren't doing here, and saw that there was like an appetite for it elsewhere, and like why couldn't we have that here? And now you'll see a lot of creators doing that. You'll see a lot of people with the voiceovers and like the vlogging style, but I mean, I was really one of the very first ones here, just because it was emerging and I was following, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I actually really like it much better than just like just music and aesthetic. I have like we've said, I have 2 small kids, so my shots are not pretty and aesthetic. I like have someone pulling at me while I'm like trying to take a steady shot. So that's why if you look at my content, a lot of them are really short shots because I just don't have the time to like set up the perfect shot. I don't have an Insta husband. My husband is, if he's watching, he's really not great at taking pictures. So I like have to do like the awkward selfies. I feel like I look terrible in half the content I put out. You know, it's definitely not for the vain, but it's, you know, I just do what I can with what I have, and yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, but just doing it basically.
You're doing a lot for the city and the community of Geneva. What do you get back from it? Is there...
I just think back to myself when I was here, and I was looking to move here, and I just was lost. I love when I meet with people and they're like, thank you. Like, I felt lost, and you were able to help me figure out where to go. Things like that. Or with tourists, like I love helping tourists. Like, here's one good day. Here's what you need to do to have one really good day here, because then that's gonna be one less person leaving and saying Geneva's boring. You know. I mean,
from here, and thank you.
and the history. I love showcasing history, and those videos take a lot longer to produce because I need to make sure they're accurate. I mean, that's when I put my like television production lens. I'm like, how do I script this out so it's like with a hook, you know? And but I love those videos that can kind of show people who've been here forever, like a side or a piece of like a nugget of history that they didn't know before. Like, that really is very motivating. And I don't know why it's so motivating, but that's why I do it. I don't do it it's not my goal to have this be my career. But I cannot stop. It's just like, I just want to keep doing it.
It's very heartwarming.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Yeah.
What would you recommend if someone came to you and said, I want to become a travel blogger or content creator? Like, what would be the best advice you would give them?
I say just start. I mean, the thing is, I think so many people wait to have the perfect website or like the perfect Instagram, like this perfect aesthetic. Like the fact is, like, when you get started, no one's going to watch. You have to cultivate it, and it's in those early projects that you will actually trial and error. You'll learn the skills. You'll learn how to do it faster and better. And it's not that early content is a waste of time, because it isn't. But like you just have to start. And I think that it is so hard to be a new creator these days because there's so much saturation. But the voices that are authentic, like, they'll still stand out. And I think, and it's great skill set or like building, and you can still get more from it even if it doesn't pan out. I just think people just want everything to be perfect from the beginning, but that perfection is going to be wasted sometimes into the ether. So
We have time for like one last question. Yeah.
You mentioned that blog, TikTok account, and Instagram are side hustles. However, do you set objectives? Because you have your day job. And
I mean, I'm an overachiever. So yeah, I mean, I do, and I'm I'm not reaching them, but because I don't have the time. But I'm like, if I had more time, I'm sure I would reach them. It's just because I believe in myself. But yeah, I have objectives because at this point now, it has kind of grown into a thing, and so I think you can't be a motivated person and just like, okay, whatever. I mean, I'm a realist, and if I don't meet those objectives, nothing bad's going to happen. But I do set targets for myself, or just, you know, but I almost always don't meet them because you got to reach high.
But it keeps you, I guess, I'm not going to say it, I was going to say competitive, but that's not the word. Like, it keeps you, like, driven,
Yeah.
I guess?
Yeah, because I think that burnout is a really real thing, and I feel like I'm in it now, but you just have to keep going, and I find that creativity is really, it does come in waves, but if you stop, that's the danger, because like then it just makes everything feel more pressure to like the next thing's got to be really good. But I definitely like do look back at my feed periodically and like, oh gosh, I haven't posted very much, you know, like that's a bummer. But then when I meet people on the street, no one seems to notice. They're like, wow, how do you post so often? And I was like, I haven't posted for like a week, you know, so no one notices. I think we're all our own like worst critic here.
I would like another big round of applause for Christina, please.